My name is Terry. I'm sitting on my apartment floor, a cup of cold tea beside me, and my phone in my hand. The screen shows I have 43 voicemails. 43. It's been exactly 7 years since I cut off all contact with my family, and they've never once reached out, not on my birthdays, not during holidays. But now, out of the blue, 43 messages in one night. I took a deep breath and started listening. Every single voicemail, in different voices and volumes, said the same 2 words, "Come home." My mother's voice was eerily calm. "Come home," she said, so quiet it was almost a murmur. My father left 2 identical, short messages. His lack of emotion in those words was like a stab in the heart. My sister's messages got louder and more desperate as the night went on. And then there was my brother. At 3 a.m. After 40 seconds of silence, he whispered, "Come home." As I listened, I realized that not one of these messages asked how I was. Not one acknowledged the 7 years of silence. And not one said the word sorry. It was as if they'd Googled me, found my success, and their first instinct was not pride or guilt, but possession. They wanted me back as if I was their property, as if the past 7 years hadn't happened, as if I was still that broken 22-year-old girl they used to push around. I didn't call them back that night. Instead, I called my therapist. We talked for an hour. She reminded me that in a family where guilt and love were always mixed up, it was easy to be confused. The pull I felt towards the word home wasn't a pull towards them, it was a yearning for a family I'd always dreamed of but never had. There was real grief in that, and I let myself feel it. I started to think back to that fateful day 7 years ago. I was 22, and I'd just been accepted into a prestigious culinary program in another city. It was something I'd worked towards for 3 long years. I was so excited, I could barely contain myself as I walked through the front door. My family was sitting in the living room. My mother, Linda, was a domineering woman with a caustic tongue. She always had a sharp comment ready, no matter the situation. My father, Carl, was a withdrawn man. His constant silence was as suffocating as her words. My sister, Ava, was a copy of my mother, and my brother, Ethan, followed their lead like a shadow. I started to tell them the news, but before I could even finish the first sentence, my mother looked up from her knitting. "You'll give up. You don't have the perseverance," she said coldly. My father didn't even look up from his newspaper. Ava let out a mocking laugh, and Ethan just stared at me blankly. That was the final straw. I felt a fire burning inside me. I went upstairs, packed a single suitcase, grabbed the $300 I'd saved from my part-time job at the local diner, and walked out the door. It was 3 a.m. And I stood at the bus station. I didn't cry. I was too numb, too relieved. After years of being suffocated in that toxic environment, finally, I could breathe. Once I left, they spread rumors about me. They told our relatives, neighbors, and old family friends that I was unhinged. I became the crazy daughter who abandoned her loving family without a reason. The next 7 years were tough. There were nights when I ate instant noodles because I couldn't afford anything else. Winters were the worst. I'd work at a coffee shop in the morning and then at a restaurant in the evening. By the time I got home, I was so exhausted that I just collapsed onto my bed. There were moments of intense loneliness when I felt like the weight of the world was on my shoulders. But then, there were also things I'd never experienced in that so-called home. There was peace. I could wake up in the morning without dreading the day ahead. I started sleeping through the night for the first time in years. I dared to speak my mind without constantly apologizing. Slowly but surely, I started to become myself. I worked hard in my culinary program. I took on internships, learned from the best chefs, and eventually, I started getting recognition in the culinary industry. I built a small, quiet life for myself. I was proud of what I'd achieved, of the person I'd become. But now, all those voicemails have shaken the walls I've built around myself. I haven't gone back, and I don't know if I ever will. I'm not going back to the family dynamic that made me feel like I didn't matter. What I've done since then has surprised even me. I didn't block them, and I didn't respond. Instead, I've been writing in my journal. I write about who I was at 22, the scared and broken girl who left in the middle of the night. I write about who I am now, a confident and independent woman who has created a life for herself. I've also started to think about what a relationship with boundaries would look like. It's not for them, but for me. I've learned that healing isn't a destination, it's a daily practice. Even when there are 43 voicemails on my phone, each one whispering home, I know I have to stay true to myself. If you're in the middle of your own journey, between leaving a toxic situation and finding your way, I want you to know that the life you build in silence is real. The person you become when no one is watching is yours, and no voicemail, no matter how many, can take that away from you. This is my story, and I'm still writing it. If it resonates with you, if it makes you feel seen or a little less alone, please subscribe to this channel. Every week, I share real stories from real people navigating the toughest parts of being human. Hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and come back because the next story might just change your life.